All right, it is insulation time. I moved a few things around in here that we were actually working on without having the shop completed to give myself enough room to get around the whole thing and put the insulation in. Now, I've never done this before, but I don't think it's going to be too complicated. Let's cut open the bag. So I'm wearing gloves for this. Probably a good idea, and don't touch yourself. I'm not sure if insulation today is the same as it was back when I was a kid and my dad was doing construction, but you get this stuff on you and you get glass all over you. So I'm going to start with the bottom, and like that. And this actually gets tucked way in the wall there. Now, as far as I know, you don't want this stuff to be all kind of bunched up. It should be laying flat. Okay, so I made a mistake on how to do this. Basically, what you're supposed to do, I guess there's a couple of methods, but the method that I'm going to go with is wherever your wiring is, they say split the batten of insulation in half, like so, and then tuck one in behind your wiring, like that, and then the other one over top. That way, I guess you get your insulation right up against your outer wall. All right, so the insulating is complete. All four walls are completely insulated. All the cracks and everything around the windows, what have you, have all got insulation in them. The only spot that does not have insulation is right here. This is where my main line is coming in to power the shop, which I still don't have yet. I'm waiting on Hydro to install a new pole and do some other work, as well as my electrician to upgrade my house to 200 amps. Okay, so since my walls are over 9 feet high, I'm going to find out which side of this plastic is the one that I cut. Oh, yeah, right here. I'm going to have to overlap my plastic, or my vapor barrier. So because I want to put a seal right here, if I do staple this plastic here, I want to get it right on the edge so that I can peel it back a little bit, and then put a bead of acoustic silicone down there, and then push it against it, and then come back and put a couple more staples in it. So I'm going to make sure that I'm level here. I'm going to drop it down just below my 4x6 sills that I have down here. I'll just make sure that I've got this going level. That looks pretty level right there. All right, the shop is now completely insulated and vapor barriered. I taped off the seams that I had. I had one seam over there. I had the lower seam, although this top vapor barrier is overlapping the bottom one by about 4 feet, so probably didn't really need to worry too much about that. Then I've got a seam over here for that piece that runs up there, and then I will have another seam over here once all of the electrical is tied in. Don't need to worry about the plugs. I bought vapor sealing boxes. There's foam right here and behind this, so as the drywall pushes the plastic up against the foam, it completes the seal, so I don't have to tape any of those boxes off. I only have to tape off around the windows once I do that acoustic silicone, and the acoustic silicone also goes all the way around the top where the vapor barrier meets the top sill. And then again down on the bottom, I will be pulling this flap up like that, and then all the way along this part right here, there'll be the acoustic sealant, and then the plastic goes down against that. Alright, so I've got all of the top seam of the vapor barrier as well as the bottom seam of the vapor barrier around the windows and around the doors sealed with the black acoustic sealant. And then I taped off the windows as well, just around the side where the plastic was, even though the acoustic sealant's probably going to be fine. The next step is going to be right in here. I've got a spray foam. This is a fairly small gap. It's tough to push insulation in there, so I'm going to use some foam. All right, so with the windows all sealed up with the foam now, I just have to let that stuff cure, and then I'll be able to trim it with a knife so that it's flush and I can install the drywall in there. All right, well, that's the first sheet. We basically have 15 more sheets to go. I'll put another full sheet in on the bottom over on the right hand side, and then I'll put a full sheet in the middle, and then stagger with four footers on the outside. Hey everyone, so every available moment this week when I'm not at work, and my work gobbles up 12 hours a day, so not a lot of opportunity to be able to work on the shop. A few hours here and there. I've managed to get all of the wallboard up, all the way from the bottom to the top. Everything's cut out for the electrical outlets. I never really thought when I was putting them in, I probably should have got them, you know, about another 3 inches away from the edge. That'll be fine though. All right, so I'm going to measure up for my first piece of corner bead, and I need 48.5 inches. So we're going to cut this right at 48. And a half. right there. Then what I'm going to do is I'm just going to nip off the corners, about like that, so that I don't have to worry about that straight edge bending out on me and making it difficult to apply mud. So there's these little holes all the way along the top, and then there's smaller ones at the back. Make sure that you're hammering in at the smaller ones at the back, or you're not going to hit your wood. I'm going to start taping everything off now. I'm going to use this fiberglass drywall tape for probably all of the flat seams, and then in the corners I'll more than likely use paper. Alright, so it's got a very adhesive back to it, and it just sticks right to the drywall. You just cut whatever length you need and lay it on. All right, so I've fiber taped all of the seams and the corners of all the windows where the corner bead meets. The only thing that I haven't put tape in is the corners, and I'm going to use paper tape in the corners. I'm not a drywaller. I'm not that good at mudding. And you know, maybe people use the fiber tape in the corner, but I find I've done a little bit in the past where when I use that fiberglass tape in the corner, I wind up breaking it, and the paper just seems to be stronger. So I'm gonna have to pre-fill the corner with a bit of mud and then lay the paper into the corner. All right, so this is the mud that I'm gonna be using right here. Ready filler drywall compound, versatile for all drywall joint finishing steps, great bond, hard finish, ideal for skim coat. So it's lightweight, all-purpose, ready mixed. Preparation, store in the proper area when taping, finishing joints, thinning with water may improve application. Add clean water in 1 cup increments and then remix. So I bought this mixer right here. It's not actually a drywall mixer, it's a grout mixer, but it was far less expensive than a drywall mixer, and it should do the same thing. There we go. Let's just, before we get carried away, let's just check the consistency of this mud. Let's see. It's pretty thick. I mean, it's not really coming off the knife, so I think what we're going to do is just lean it down a little bit. So here I got a bit of water. Put that in there. It's probably about, I don't know, third of a, or about 1 liter, half a liter. Well, it's actually not too bad. Take it out of hammer. Now I got this little corner tool that I'm going to use to push my paper in. Just going to slide it up. And hopefully it does what I need it to do. All right, well, there's the first corner, and I'm not gonna lie, guys, I am not very good at this, not very good at all. But that's the first corner. I mean, after 3 coats, I'm sure it'll look real pretty. All right, with the last corner in, just going to go around and mud all the nails and seams. All right, so before we button up the wall, I'm just going to quickly go over the electrical. I had all the electrical done by a professional contractor. It's required for my insurance, so I can't even take out a homeowner's and do it myself if I want the deal that I got on my insurance. It all has to be done by a contractor. So I think I've already discussed all of these outlets in here are quad 20 amp. Every one of these will be 4 plugs and 2 plugs on a separate circuit. Now we obviously won't be using them all at the same time, so it's not a problem to have one set of plugs in each outlet to be on the same 20 amp circuit. This is a dedicated 20 amp circuit for the dust extraction system. This is a dedicated 20 amp circuit for the air conditioner that'll be in here. Now we've got back to the regular plugs. Then we get over here, and I've got a 30 amp plug right there for a welder and or whatever else. This is where the main line comes in. I had to put a junction box in there because of what I wanted done on the outside, and we'll go have a look at that in a minute. So this is a 100 amp panel. I've got a 60 amp feed to this panel, but I do have the cable capability of 125 amps, and we'll have a look at that in a minute. Up top, I've got a circuit for the lights right there, which is also tied into the outside light over here, and there will be a switch right there. Then I also ran a separate 20 amp circuit to an outlet right over there at the back of the building. Now the reason I put that there is I'm probably going to be putting a heater up in that corner for the cold winters we get here on occasion. All right, so let's just go outside and have a quick look at what was done electrically outside. So out here, we'll kind of go backwards as to what it is. So there's the inlet line running into the shop. You can see that cable is beefy. That is number 2, 3C number 2. Heavy duty cable running in here. May get electric cars and need to be able to have the ability to plug in over here as well. Basically, I dug a trench. I'll show some pictures right now of that trench. Okay, so over here, we're back coming into the garage. And as we come around this side, tucked in the back over here is a junction box right down there. That was so that I could get a nice straight line right into the shop without having to worry about you know, just running cable in and having this huge bend in it. Now the cable runs up, and I'm not going to close my shop door, but it basically runs up and goes all the way across the opening of the garage, and you should be able to see it up in there. There it is right there, and goes over to the other wall. So over here, I installed a 100 amp sub panel. I actually put this sub panel in myself and just had the electrician tie into it. So there we've got the 60 amp feed on a 125 amp capable cable. Here I've got the 100 amp feed off of my 200 amp main coming into my sub panel. And she's all ready to be able to wire in the plugs for my garage, which I will be putting in 20 amp plugs in this entire garage as well. All right, everyone, so there's not going to be a lot of footage of the actual mudding, taping, and sanding because this is not something I am very good at, in my personal opinion, and I don't want you taking any instruction from me on how to do this. There are much better videos on YouTube that can demonstrate how to do this process way better than what I can. First off, I mean, you've all watched the drywall wallboard get put up, and then the taping using the fiber tape, and then the first coat of mud, and then the second coat, and where I felt that I needed a third coat, I went over it with a third coat after some sanding. Now, and that completes the inside of the shop as far as the drywall mudding and taping goes. All right, so with my drywalling and painting job finished, which is definitely not interior home quality, it's definitely shop quality. Without having any proper lighting in here, it was very difficult to see how well the mud went on the seams and whether or not it really came out from the drywall and blended it in. Now that I got a little bit of light in here, I can see imperfections of where the tape is. It's slightly indented, not enough mud. The mud shrank and then went in where the drywall seam is. But it is a shop, so it's not going to be perfect. There's a bunch of other minor imperfections, and when it comes to mudding and taping, I am definitely not a sculptor. So let's move on with sealing the windows. We're using a DAP Dynaflex 230, and you just got to make sure that you run your bead on fairly thin. Don't get carried away unless you've got a larger gap that you need to fill in, but it's relatively a small bead that you're putting on, because as you go along with your finger after, you're going to notice that you've got a lot of extra. My windows are very tight to the drywall. There's not a big gap or seam in there. that I have to fill, and that's that. Then we simply dip our finger in water, get it up in the corner, and just start filling it in. Now you can probably see already I'm starting to bead up in front of my finger. I want to get rid of that now, because if I don't, it's just going to spread onto the edge of the window frame. Get my finger nice and wet again, come back here, start back behind it, and just go along. Take that off again. Again, getting my finger wet. I'm going to come over and start from the other side now. And that's it. That has sealed that corner. Now we'll just go all the way around the rest of the window. All right, that's it. The windows are all sealed up. I think I am going to move on to installing the air conditioner so that I can cool it off here, because it is pretty hot out today.